Okay, you're live.
We're live.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Apparently, we're live. Glad I know that. Not picking my nose or, coming out of the next room with my underwear, should I? Oh yeah, that was Shawn. Speaking of underwear, boy, where is he? He's due any second now. Sugar Shawn Ray will be joining us any minute. We're going to let some people get on the live here. We appreciate everybody getting on and doing this with us, as I'm sure you guys got lots and lots of questions. And of course, we've got lots and lots of answers and all the right advices. As always, hey, hello, legends. It's going to be a good one, as always. I appreciate that. Reps and rumors. Oh, I like that. What's up, Bob? Hey, man. What's going on? Yeah, there's lots of reps and rumors. Speaking of reps, for anybody that's been following my threads and such, you'll see an ongoing dispute of whether the bench press is, in fact, the worst exercise in the world, which I have stated now for my whole career, pretty much over 25 years of worth. And what's interesting is this by far has been the biggest subject matter of anything I've ever put out of all the stuff that's come around with politics and IFBB and all the morons that are out there with their stuff. And it pales in comparison to the bench press thread. Which is interesting to me because I don't know why people are that passionate about it. It's a damn exercise. It's one exercise. And if you're a competitive bodybuilder, no, it's not the be-all, end-all of exercises. Why? I've explained this 100 times, but I'll explain it 101 while we're waiting on some people. Hey, there's the champ. What's up, Natalia? I see you're in the news lately. Welcome to my world of totally ridiculous stuff out there. For those who don't know, and again, I'm gonna shift out of the bench press stuff. We'll cover that another time. But just say no, folks. Okay, listen. You can bench press as an exercise. It's fine, especially if you're a young up and coming guy. You're looking to build some. Do not make it the max. Okay, don't make that your max. Unfortunately, nobody asks anything other than what do you bench. There's only three things that anybody ever that gets a max in, and that's bench press, deadlift, and squats. That's it. Nobody ever asked you to what's your max on side laterals or tricep pushdown. So those three things will tend to be more injury prone as the weight goes up and you're pushing the envelope. So, and again, this is not made for amateurs that we were talking about. It's more for people, pros, people that have been doing this for a long time, and strong people that can bench press over 400 pounds. It's going to be a problem at some point. But there's no reason to risk a pec tear, which will ruin your career and ultimately has for many. So anyway, keep that thread going. It's over 1,000, I think, now in terms of comments, which is hilarious. But so Natalia, who is your reigning, defending women's physique Olympia champion, 2-time now. She's been catching a whole bunch of slack out there from the idiot patrol who think that she's injecting PMMA and all this other weird stuff in order to enhance her physique, and which is the most ludicrous thing I've ever heard. And I'm sorry, sweetie, you got to deal with all this stuff, but listen, I know you're not sensitive when it comes to things. You can handle your own business, but listen, no champion should be treated this way. The allegations are completely senseless and pointless. And listen, this is a girl who's been renowned for her thigh development. She didn't lose any other shows because her legs were too small. So nobody's even addressed that. Why would she be doing such a thing? To potentially ruin her physique when she was second in the world and has been first in the world at her chosen profession, which is the women's physique division. Here's the other thing with that. We're in a business that is 100% based on a look. That's what it's based on, okay? Nobody cares what you do. Nobody cares how you get there. Nobody cares what you take or don't take. It just is not a part of what we do. So I bring this up for the main fact that if the judges didn't see anything outstanding, if nobody else seen anything outstanding, this champion has competed this year. She's been on the pro stage a couple of times. Nobody said a word. Nobody said a word after Pittsburgh. All of a sudden, it's a thing now. Like, this is something you think that she picked up to do, and for what possible reason? But we're not the morality police, folks. Okay, the judges don't care. There's no resume you submit as to how you train or what you do. And listen, even if that was the case, okay, let's just take the other stand. Okay, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what anybody does. You can be putting 10W30 motor oil in your deltoids and stuff, and it only matters what it looks like. Does it look odd? Does a guy have deltoids that are at right angles that look very enhanced and it takes away from the physique? That's what we're talking about. Does it take away from the physique? Clearly, the answer is no. This girl not only did well, but she won her title back. So, listen, I'm going to say this for the millionth time, everybody. Please be aware of where you get your source of information from. There's too many morons out there today with a microphone that put stuff out there without any base, any rhyme or reason. It's purely to get clickbait. And these are people that we have sworn off now as Sugar Shawn is joining us because they're not even worthy of discussion. So we've actually put them in that category, as I did a couple of weeks ago, that we won't even respond. We won't bother, won't bring your names up because they're too stupid, literally, to even acknowledge. So, speaking of acknowledgments, folks, look who it is, but Hall of Famer all the way from California, Sugar Shawn Ray. What's up, buddy? You got your pants on?
I do. I caught the tail end of what you were saying.
Yeah, I was. So Natalia has joined us on our live, which we always appreciate, the champ. And I was just going over the stupidity, the literal ludicrous nature of why would people come up with this notion that she or anybody on that stage is injecting PMMA, and this Brazilian company that's doing this. This is a girl who's won the Olympia. This is somebody who's now gotten her title back. Nobody said a word all throughout the year of anything like that. And she was not known for somebody who she'd be great, but her thighs are too small. She's had thighs for days. Her thighs were actually too big when she was competing in figure, which is one of the reasons she went to physique. So it's like, why would anybody give any credibility into this?
Who is?
Well, again, we're not, because again, we're professionals and we know what we're talking about. But the people in moron land out there that have other podcasts and such are, and they want to make a big thing out of it like it exists.
Well, look, our sport is it's ripe with opinion. Everybody has an opinion. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. Garbage in, garbage out. Consider the source. I mean, they're going to talk about you when you're winning. It's when you're not winning is when you have a problem. So the conspiracy theories are rampant.
Oh, yeah. Well, and getting worse because, again, you got to consider the source, people. Again, we're going to say that from now until the end of time. But it makes every difference in the world because when you have nothing else to talk about, that's where you go is to, again, garbage in, garbage out. What's well said, Sean. They're the TMZ of whatever. And it's like, look, that's not reality. It's not based on any sort of a fact. Why you would even put allegations like that out are completely ridiculous. And by the way, I've looked at pictures and such just to satisfy my own curiosity, and I come up with you can literally overlay the pictures on top of each other. There's no difference. Sean, I think one of them I sent to you. There's a picture of Sarah winning last year, Natalia next to her in the middle on the Olympia stage, and then there's the exact same picture reversed as their placings were reversed this year. They're identical.
I don't really feel the need to have to come on here to defend Natalia any more than we need to pick apart Sarah. I mean, Ronnie Coleman, when he won the 1998 Mr. Olympia, looked phenomenal, but he had a bad case of gyno.
Yep.
Dorian Yates, when he won the Mr. Olympia in 94, looked great for him, but he had a torn bicep and a big fat belly to go along with it. His tan was running all over the place. Nobody's perfect, but what people have a tendency to do is they like to pick apart the champion. I mean, if I'm Natalia, I'm not paying attention to this. As a matter of fact, I don't remember the last time the Olympia was testing for anything. When was the last time the Olympia actually had some kind of test? What
I think
year?
it was, if memory serves, but wasn't it 90 or 91? It was one of those last years.
No, because Jay Cutler failed the diuretic test in 2001, kept his second place medal, and is on record as saying that he took a lot of diuretics, lost like 20 or 30 pounds, and then the results came back after the show. The Federation did absolutely nothing. Hold on. Federation did absolutely nothing. Mm-hmm. He kept his silver medal. He kept his 60 grand. and nobody said anything. But what we do know is that he failed the diuretic test. Now, that being said, sometime after that, they got rid of him. And since then, there has never been any kind of testing for anything. So pot, meat, kettle, when you have somebody like Sarah, who last check didn't say she was a natural competitor, or Chris Cormier pointing out anomalies that he thinks look kind of funky or strange in Denmark, as if this guy's never taken anything. Now, that being said, why are we giving weight to a disgruntled loser on the Olympia stage going after the champion? We can complain about a lot of things, but what we can't do is change the outcome of the show.
Well, so
not only did I have Natalia winning the show,
yeah,
but I had her winning the previous year.
I did too. I had her winning last year.
So. Yeah, and I didn't really notice a whole lot of differences other than that she was more mature and she was actually better. Where was this rumor a year ago? So you got to consider the source. You got to consider the source.
So I guess, and it brings up the question at hand, which is something I wanted to at least give our opinion on. I think we're on the same page as we are most of the time, that, this is cheating. And I would submit to anybody that's watching this, the only way you can cheat in bodybuilding, okay, as a whole, is if you're a enhanced bodybuilder or whatever, and you're going to go into a natural show, right? And you're going to kind of literally cheat the test, right? They're going to get somebody else's urine, or you're going to, I don't know, whatever they do, right? That I guess would constitute cheating, okay? In the regular world of bodybuilding that we know, in our federation and our sport as we know it, there is no cheating in bodybuilding. Is taking diuretics cheating? Is taking testosterone cheating? Is taking insulin cheating, right? We can go on and on and on. Again, there's no round. There's no bench press.
Is hair and makeup cheating?
Again, we can go right down to it's wearing a tan cheating. Well, you're not really that dark, right? I mean, so we can go on and on and on. So no, there is, in my opinion, there is no such thing as cheating in bodybuilding.
Well, that's again why I say this is a form of art. It's all in the eye of the beholder. They're judging the finished product and not judging how they got there. I've seen athletes tan themselves and paint abdominals into their abs that are not existent. But from a distance, you see a six-pack. So is that cheating? I don't know.
I mean, listen, you at the end of the day, you can't really get away with anything because you're out there standing there in your underwear in front of thousands of people, and more importantly, 7 judges or 11 judges or whatever it might be, with a big magnifying glass on you. So listen, I don't really particularly care what anybody does because we're not in a game that notes what people do, how they get there. You're there on game day to be judged by a jury of your peers, okay? And to rank you in order of who they think looks best. That's it.
That's it. That you know what? You nailed it, because how about the hair and makeup girl who transforms a female from looking one way to another way? I mean, night and day. We're talking hair and nails, we're talking wigs, we're talking eyelashes, we're talking lip jobs. No one's standing in judgment of that. It's the Wild West. Everything goes until there is a test. And if you get tested and you fail, then you can get branded, like I did in 1990, a cheater, being enhanced. Then even that's debatable, because if everyone's doing it, who's cheating? That being said, to single out Natalia, who absolutely won in my book with perfect scores, and then try to find some anomaly. Her leg, the left leg is bigger than the right leg. Who was 100% perfect, right? My calves were high. One was higher than the other. Nobody ever talked about it. I knew it. But this is really splitting hairs, and it's really reaching. And when you find other athletes that are so-called professionals chiming in and going, yeah, I can see something wrong, as if they're perfect, it's very hypocritical. Very hypocritical.
The only time any of this comes into play is when something looks stupid on stage, which we've seen. We've seen injection marks. We've seen pointed deltoids. We've seen suspicious things, Shawn, as it would be, and anomalies of different parts. It's never going to help an athlete. It actually is only going to take you down in your potential standing. So if it looks a little bit too stupid or unusual or odd, it's not going to help you. If somebody can craft whatever they want to craft, and it's undetectable or nobody would ever know or whatever, good for them. Because the name of the game is what you look like on game day. That's it. So let's get to some questions.
It is a sport of opinion, and I'm not against anybody's opinion, right or wrong. I saw something where we're talking about experts, as if you have to walk across the Olympia stage to have an opinion. No, you don't. I mean, Howard Cosell never played football. As far as I know, Bob Costas was never a boxer. Jim Lampley as well. Commentators commentate. That's what they do. And when they're doing it, they're expressing their opinion. Stephen A. Smith, $100 million man. He's paid for his opinion. He didn't have to play the game. But when we say expert, I'm talking about time invested in all aspects of the game, on the stage, behind the scenes, promoting shows, sponsored athlete, master of ceremonies, Hall of Fame career. I consider myself an expert. Why? I never missed the Olympia in almost 40 freaking years. You're an expert. You've been on stage for over 20. To discount that as if it doesn't matter. Well, are you an expert because you have a podcast and a microphone and 100,000 followers? It doesn't make you an expert just because you can talk on the subject.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up because it kind of segues into another thing that had come up this week. It was erroneously reported, which is very interesting to me because that we had said like, in order to be a bodybuilding journalist, you need to be a pro, and we're the only experts out there, and all this stuff. That's not what we said. If anybody wants to go back and look, okay, and they confused the word journalist for expert. Okay.
Yeah,
neither one of us said that nobody can be a quote bodybuilding journalist or consider themselves a bodybuilding journalist. Anybody can consider themselves whatever they want in terms of that. What we said is that there's a big difference of somebody who quote considers themselves an expert. And that's what Shawn's talking about right now. Okay. Is what separates an expert from not an expert. And what we said was that yes, being a pro has its advantages because we've walked the walk and we've talked the talk. Being in the game our whole lives also makes a difference. But the most important factor in being an expert is that you're right a whole lot more than you're ever wrong. Our top 5 picks, our predictions, our play-by-play, Shawn, our review of shows and things like that have always been spot on. That's why we do what we do. And we are considered experts, as a Peter McGuff was, as a Sean Perrine was, as a Ron Harris was. None of these people were pros. You don't have to be a pro to be an expert. Okay. You also don't have to be a pro to be a journalist, but we never said that. Why anybody would pick up on that is, I can be a journalist. Who's to say I'm not a journalist? Nobody's saying it, you're not a journalist. Nobody cares whether you think you're a journalist.
Well, I'll tell you what, if I were going to college, it would be nice if my professor was an expert. Like they went to college, they got their degree, they did their after studies, and they've invested years, if not decades, in the course that they're actually teaching. So theoretically, yeah, you can call us an expert. Are you going to take it away? What constitutes an expert? We have our opinion. Take it for what it's worth. Compare it to whoever you want. Being an expert in this industry has nothing to do with likes and follows.
No, it's got to do everything with whether you've been right or wrong most of the time. And I pride myself on the fact that I know we both do that we are not always right, but we ain't never wrong, Shawn. And that's the difference right there. But seriously. Listen, anybody can go back 10, 15, 20, 25 years. Look at our predictions that we've both done on various things. And we're right, I would say, in the 95 percentile. Now, one thing I will say, without mentioning any names, is that the one thing neither one of us have ever done in this game, ever, out of the thousands of shows that we've covered, watched, been there, looked at, judged in our own minds or on the stage, never in my life, and I'll speak for you as well, have I ever had somebody that I pegged to be in the top 5 of a competition who ended up in the bottom 5 of a competition? Not a one.
That gives you a little bit of qualification over the decades, not years, over the decades of being in the game. I don't need to defend the fact that I consider myself an.
Well, you got a phone call.
Incoming call, sorry.
All right. Who's calling? Is that Fruit of the Loom calling you for an endorsement?
Yeah, no. It happens.
So Hang on. So we're going to get to, let me get to some questions. They're piling up here. We appreciate everybody coming on. They like the lives. Bob and Shawn are typically correct. Yes, we appreciate that. Hang on. Let's go back. Back. Have to have been there on some. They have to have been there on some level from Paul Bartlett. Yes and no. Listen, you have to have been there in terms of being a part of the sport. Peter McGuff was generally regarded as one of the greatest journalists of all time, if not the. I put him and Rick Wayne right up there.
And by the way, we're not comparing ourselves to a historian, editor, owner of a publication like Peter McGuff, but there are aspects of the game that you and I know intrinsically that Peter will never know because he never experienced it. He didn't go on a diet. He didn't get judged. He didn't have to be compared. He never won. So there's areas of expertise in this industry that we have in common, and some that we totally know more than the average journalist because we competed.
So here's a few here. Hang on. Did Shawn Ray deserve to lose his 1990 victory? Did the runner-up to you, who then won, compete natural in your opinion? This is from Home Gym Physique. So in your opinion, did the you fail the test? Does I know who the guy is, but does the runner-up deserve merit, or they just pass the test?
Well, no, I mean, listen, there's rules and regulations. I'm all about it. I failed the test. The next guy passed the test, so he wins. Now, mind you, that person happened to be in the form of Mike Ashley, who was always saying that he was a lifelong natural competitor. Now, whether that's true or not, that's not up for me. I didn't give two shits whether he was natural.
Right.
What I did know is I failed the test, and rightfully so. I didn't contest it. It was done clunky, and they could have, in hindsight, they fixed it by September, got the results back in advance. But I've never contested failing the test, and I don't know, nor do I care whether Mike Ashley was actually drug-free or not. That's not for me to stand in judgment of.
Okay, let me get back to the beginning here. Hey, Jimmy Mentis is on there. Jimmy the Greek. We love Jimmy. By the way, Jimmy, thanks for stirring it up out there a little bit. I see you're not shy, never have been, about throwing your opinion out there and putting some of these people in their place. You know what? We need more Jimmy Mentises out there. More pros that are willing to come out and speak their mind and put some of these people.
What did I miss?
Well, he had put a post out in one of the things that was going on last week or so. I can't even. It'll come to me in a minute, but and it was like, what, I read it and I'm like, what, good for Jimmy, because we need more pros coming out there. It's not even defending the federation or the faith. It's literally putting people in their place of, look at, there's things that we can say as pros that we are privy to. And that's why we do what we do. Listen, we don't like to cover some of the topics that we cover, but we have internal knowledge. Okay. We're a part of the game. We've both been a part of things from the inside level of how the federation works and things like that, to judging, to rule changes and different things like that. So I feel obligated sometimes to set the record straight. But we have to do so now without acknowledging some of these idiots that are out there, because that's all they're looking for is our acknowledgement. If not, they don't really have a show. Because what they do is they backpedal to these bizarre little things, and everything's a conspiracy, and the judges, and Big Steve's ripping up score sheets in the back. We've said this now on a couple of different shows. Every single pro show that's ever been had, Shawn, from the beginning of time, we rip up the score sheets. Okay? This isn't unique, everybody. There's no smoking gun here. I've ripped up score sheets. The head judges rip up score sheets, and the scorekeeper rips up score sheets. You know why? Because those scores are only for the morning. Yeah,
a lot of people, if you don't understand the process, then you're going to draw these conspiracy theories.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is, these are people that are talking out of their ass because they don't know the inner workings. Oh my God, he was ripping up sheets. Listen. Well, yeah, listen. When there's after the prejudging in particular, okay, the score. And by the way, the scores just don't live on sheets, folks. This isn't 1972. Okay, there's a whole computer system that we have in place called Muscleware. All right, that I actually helped put in place. Okay, that's in there now. Everything is stored on a computer. The printout is what goes on the sheet, and that gets redone after the prejudging because you've got more scoring coming at night. So it's, again, there's no smoking gun of anybody ripping up. And what would have happened after that? So when they came back at the night show, what? Nobody knew what the placings were? Like
Well,
nobody knew where
but not only that, Bob,
were.
why all of a sudden is it an issue today? I've been talking about this all the way back to 2001 at the press conference in front of the judges. It has its what was old is new and what's new is old. It's constant. It's
It
opinion.
says here, Duke Nukem says, what does Shawn think about Dave Palumbo? What do you think about Diamond Dave, Shawn?
That's a broad question. Like really, which aspect? Which aspect? Like, what do I think of his physique? I mean,
no, we're not certainly not talking about physique. No, what do you just think about Dave in general?
What are we talking about? Character?
Yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah, I don't think he's any less passionate about the industry than I am. He's been in it almost as long as I have been. He worked at Muscular Development with Steve Bleckman, who gave him his start, who he shits on constantly. I'll never understand that. I don't think Bleckman ever did wrong. I don't think Bleckman ever did anything wrong to Palumbo except fire him. But that being said, I mean, he's another guy that's kind of like an old throwback that's eat, sleep, and breathe bodybuilding. I can't take that away from him. His passion runs as deep as mine, as yours, as anyone. Do we always agree? No. Is he an unbiased reporter? No. Does he favor his own supplements and his own clientele? Yes. Is he a conspiracy theorist? Yes. There's a lot of things about Palumbo that I like and that I don't like. But at the end of the day, this is a brotherhood. I didn't like Dorian Yates until we retired and I came to know the guy. It's a brotherhood. There's ebbs and flows to this. It is a long and winding road. So there's aspects of Dave Palumbo I love, aspects that I cannot stand, but I will never not like Dave Palumbo because we're cut from the same cloth.
So this one's from Melvin Mungo Jr. It looks like it's all together. Should the promoter have the money for the contest? Yes. Any promoter should have the money for the contest. Now, every once in a while, and again, it doesn't happen often, okay, somebody drops the ball, okay, and there's a variety of reasons for that. Now, we're not going to sit here and dispute why that happens or whatever. What I will say is this. Parameters were put in place by yours truly years ago that in the event that a promoter drops the ball on the prize money for whatever reason, that it's backed up by the federation. And Jim Mannion even said years ago, listen, I will pay it personally if it ever got to that point, okay? So we have an assurance. It's actually in the rules that the federation will back it up, okay, in the event that somebody drops the ball. This happened as recent as just a few years ago with the Boston Pro, where some promises were made and a truck was given away and this and that. And the promoter guy, failed to deliver on that. And Jim Mannion and IFBB Pro League made good on it. And that's what they do, okay? So we are covered either way. In this recent case, obviously, as most people know, there was a problem with the Masters Olympia money. That promoter was having a hard time. Maybe he thought monies were coming in. Money was due to him. Again, we're not here to dispute it. But Jake Wood stepped up to the plate and paid the athletes. So, again, and if he didn't want to do it, not that he wouldn't have, because, Jake's a good guy like that, the federation would have. So we have backup.
You want me to chime in?
Sure, chime in, Shawn. That's why you get the big buck.
I think that if there's a promoter out there that's new to the game and is not seasoned and doesn't have the reputation and longevity and a history of paying on time, when you come in, Bob, and you want to do the Bob Cicherillo Classic out in Savannah, Georgia, yeah, and you're going to offer up a certain amount of prize money, I think 30 days before the show, you should put that in an escrow account. That way I know that even if your show bombs, the athletes are going to get paid.
Yep. Yeah, and listen, there's long-standing promoters who've been doing this for.
Hold on, after a couple of years of doing it, then you don't have to have the money up front because I know you're good for it. But you got to prove yourself. If you're a new promoter, you should have to prove yourself and pay.
So Joe Sanchez says, "Would you ever go on Fuad's podcast?" Sure, if he ever asked. I mean, I was only slated to go on there once, and that was some years ago. And then at the 11th hour, it kind of fell apart, and I didn't end up going on. But I don't know about you, but he's never asked me to go on his podcast.
I never met a podcast I didn't like. So I mean, it's all about engagement.
Listen, we got the bro chat. You know what I mean? That we can do. But Sean's face. No, that's from us. What about Sean's face?
Big eyes.
Let's see. What do we got? Ron Harris, Giles, Kelly. These are the guys holding the whole thing together. Appreciate that, Paul. Mike Here's Mike Cox. He's been around forever. Does the Federation ever listen to your suggestions? Yeah. Listen, I had 20 years as the athlete rep of suggestions. That's why some of the things that are in place, I'm the one that suggested, if you want to use that, they're proposals that I would put in. But them backing up the prize money, that was a proposal. The 212 division, the bikini division, the women's physique division, these are all proposals I put in. So yes, they approved all of them, and those continue today to be a great part of the pro league, and have given many athletes opportunities to make a lot of money and sign a lot of contracts and be champions in their respective divisions. There's so many. I mean, I've got dozens of those. So do they listen? Yes, they traditionally have. Jim Mannion has, and again, now we don't have that same format anymore, but I'll just give you a small example. I had a suggestion for changing the way they do the lines on the stage, okay, for the judging. If most people notice in the videos, you see tape on the thing. I had a particular way I wanted to do it so that people would be less apt to jump the line or start moving left and right, where they all get crowded in and they're hitting elbows. And we did that. They adopted that. They liked the idea, and they said, "Oh, great, thanks." So yeah, they listen. I mean, it just depends on how vocal you are, and if something's got to make sense. It's got to make sense for everybody.
Well, do they listen to the athletes? I think that's the bigger question. Are they listening to the athletes? My point is, the athletes don't have any complaints. If they do, I haven't heard them.
Very few. We've heard very few complaints.
So nothing changes. If I want something to change, I'm going to say it. I want to get rid of the confirmation round. I don't like it. I think it's a waste of time. It's time consuming. Prejudging, you make the cut. That's where all the comparison, all the work takes place. When I come back to the finals, I'm going to see the posing routine, the announcement of the top 15, the pose down, and then awards. I don't need to see confirmation again. If you missed the prejudging, you shouldn't gratuitously get an opportunity to watch prejudging at the finals. That's not what finals are for. Prejudging is for confirmation. Prejudging is for judging. The finals are for entertainment and awards and presentation. Get rid of the confirmation round at the finals. It's worthless, it's time consuming, and it's redundant. We've seen that movie before.
All right, hang on. I just lost what I was looking for. Okay, here it is. Major or minor? You said, talking about me, you said you brought in the current scoring system in. Were you referring to the pose by pose type scoring versus the posing round, muscularity round, symmetry round? So no, I worked with the actual programmer guy out of Canada who put the system together and how to make it work with the current system that we have under the IFBB Pro League. I didn't bring in the scoring systems as it would be. Listen, they've had numerous scoring systems over the years. Me and Shawn have referenced before where years and years ago, they had a system that was based on kind of like in boxing, where you have like a mandatory, 10, points in a round type of thing. It was 20 points in a round. It was a maximum of 300. So 300 was considered a perfect score. But it wasn't a perfect system, Shawn, because twice that I know of, most notably in Danny Padilla's case, he scored a perfect 300, but lost the show.
Right. And that's why you had to change it. Evolution. Look, I had a great CD player, but then here comes the digital downloads. So you get rid of the CD and you do the digital. It happens. I was begging in 2001 to throw away the pencils and pens and go to digital. That was 24 years ago. We're still not there.
Well, and now just to expound on that a little bit, we did change it a little bit some years ago because, as everybody's fond of knowing now, the different rounds they're all kind of combination rounds, okay? The symmetry round isn't just scored on symmetry. The posing round was never really scored on posing, but that was, again, kind of on the lesser end of things, oddly enough. And the muscularity round wasn't just muscularity, because you can't just be a big muscular freak, but be void of symmetry and presentation. You can't be the most symmetrical thing in the world, but be lacking in muscularity or, again, presentation. And you can't have the best routine in the world, but be lacking muscularity and symmetry and proportion. So they all end up being kind of a hybrid of each other, which is why I opted to try to get rid of the scoring for the posing round. Shawn, I used you as my catalyst, actually, for that, and saying that some of the greatest posers of all time, yourself and Lee Labrada and Bob Paris, and I can go on and on. only won the scoring round on shows that they actually won. And I'll guarantee you, I know you don't have the scores like Milos. Milos has every score sheet he's ever had, and I imply always to him to go look at them, because I'm going to guarantee that every show you ever won, Shawn, that you won the posing round, but every show you ever lost, you didn't win the posing round on those either.
Yeah, Vince Taylor can say the same thing.
Right.
Anybody that you think is a great poser, you can say the same thing. The one thing that you'll find consistent is that Lee Haney, Dorian Yates, they never failed. They never lost the posing round. They're the best posers, according to the judges.
Okay, so this says, once again, Duke Nuke, will Bob ever return to the Arnold Classic? Never say never. Right now, I put my chips in with the Olympia, and I'd like to further that. I'd like to be a much bigger part of the future, and we have some discussions coming up about that. I've got some great ideas, at least I think they're great, as to how we can kind of take that to the next level. But they do things a little bit differently over there. And again, I'm not bad-mouthing anybody. It's just not something I really want to be a part of at this time. Who knows for the future, Shawn? I mean, there was a time that, we were with Flex Magazine and says we would never be with a different magazine. And then all of a sudden we were with, Muscular Development and Steve Blackman and his crew. So, again, never say never in this game. There's a certain things that you can say never. but that's not really one of them. That's business is business as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think never for me would be judging. That's not my thing.
So Paul Bartlett says they tried to take Bob down and failed once again. Bob needs to be there. He must be talking about the Olympia.
You the man.
People don't realize how bad it would be if Bob wasn't there. I appreciate that, Paul. Listen, I do the best that I can to make a show better. Shawn has hosted many shows himself. You can lend to a show, or you can just be kind of a neutral in terms of not messing it up. What you don't want to be is the reason that it's messed up. It's like watching a baseball game. Yeah, listen, the umpire isn't the star. Okay, you just hope he doesn't mess it up too much for everybody. He calls balls and strikes the way he should. Or a referee in football. Like, let's take for instance, your Raiders, bro, right? Oh. Now, clearly nothing can help the Raiders, whether it's a game that's called good or bad. But somebody actually asked earlier, asked Shawn what he thinks about the Raiders this year. So,
well, as far as I knew it was over when we got Geno Smith. And it was confirmed when we got Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll being 74 years old, coaching 20-something-year-old players. He's phoning it in. Geno Smith was never he never lived up to the hype. So those are two vital components to a team. If those two are screwed up, the whole thing is done. I knew that when they passed on Shedeur. We should have had Shedeur at quarterback.
Yeah, you know what? That would have been a much better pick. I think they're probably regretting that right now, but
of course. It's all good. We survived. We'll be back next year.
Well, we were talking about this the other day, and you and I, even, we're football, fanatics and stuff. You being a Raiders fan, we actually had to go back decades to find the last time a quarterback was good on the Raiders.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it happens. It's ownership. It's not management. It's ownership.
Is Fit Model going to be at the Olympia? Yes, it will. I don't know if that's this year or next year.
Not this year.
Yeah, I don't think it's this year. Right?
Yeah,
well, they got to get people qualified, so it'd be at least a year, if not more. If every show had a Best Poser award with cash prizes, do you think we would see better routines? Yes, I do. We've been saying for years, offer money. These are professionals. You want to see good routines? Offer some substantial money for them, and you'll get better routines. And the answer to why, everybody thinks, well, they don't score the posing round anymore. That's why the routines are shit. No, that's not the reason, because there's been prize money at the Arnold for years. And the other year, we couldn't find a best poser. You know what I mean? As all 12 routines were like mediocre, mailing it in posing, or, guest posing routine. So sometimes I don't even know if it's a money thing. I think it's more of a pride thing. Back in our day, Shawn, especially your day of the Olympias, people took great pride in putting out a great presentation, and it was a reflection on themselves. Why this isn't more of interest to athletes now, I really don't know. But you do see great routines in the Classic.
Well, in bodybuilding, it's not stressed. No one's telling these athletes to do anything. These guys go out there and they do whatever the hell they want because there's no direction. There's no instruction. The promoter, the federation, the head judge, no one's talking individually or collectively to any of these bodybuilders about leveling up their posing and presentation because nobody cares. They want to get it up there, get it over with, and be done with it. So until there's a vested interest and someone really cares, the athletes are just phoning it in. You know, they're just going to copy each other. Go up there, give 1 minute, 2 minutes, and get the hell off the stage. But the organization, the federation, the judges, there needs to be emphasis on the routine, not necessarily money. Take pride in your work.
This guy says, I think Craig Titus is getting out this year. Not kidding. I don't know about that, bro. I think that ship sailed a long time ago.
No, I mean, he may come up for parole, but based on the level of craziness surrounding, we don't know how Melissa Ann James died to this day. And it's been 2005. It's been 20 years that Melissa Ann James has passed on, and we don't have a cause of death because of the brutality of the death. And that has to be taken into consideration about rehabilitation. You want that guy moving into your neighborhood? We don't know how she died, but here's 7 different reasons that she's dead: asphyxiation, strangulation, taser, opioid overdose, duct taped, fire. I mean, we don't know how. We have chokehold. I hope he never sees the light of day. He shouldn't.
Oh, Fit Rockstar, our good friend Isabel says you're going to get Milos all fired up talking about the posing routine. That's why I love Milos, man. You get going on posing routine. Listen, I was on I taped the old school round table the other night, Sean. You got caught up, but I was on there with Dennis, Milos, and Chris. And Milos must have asked 5 times if he wanted to debate the whole Andrew Jack is the best lat spread of all time topic, which we all kind of shot down. I'm like, look, I love Andrew Jack. I think he's got a spectacular front lat spread. Is it the best of all time? No.
Yeah. No, and look, again, it's a sport of opinion. Milos is passionate about his opinion, and he's entitled to it. We cannot take it away. Now, is he wrong? Is he wrong? In this is that he is. Collectively, he's wrong. But in his mind, that's what he likes. Let him have it. I'm not going to take it away. Look, Andrew Jack has never beaten Ronnie Coleman in a front lat spread. And that's not even Ronnie's best pose. He's not beating Lee Haney in the front lat spread.
Bro, there's so many great.
I have some poses I could pull out that rival what Andrew Jack has. So it's a matter of opinion. He's okay. He's okay by me. I love his passion.
So here's one we can both totally disagree with. So
right here.
There it is. The T-Pal, I don't know what it is, but that Pal says an artistic posing routine would look ridiculous in the open division. So you're talking to one of the greatest posers of all time in Sean Ray, again, in Lee Labrada, geez, who else had great? I mean, there were so many back in the day.
Let me slow down here, because what do you want to see? Most musculars?
Why would that look ridiculous though?
Well, did Cedric McMillan ever look ridiculous to you on any level?
Cedric was great.
Cedric was 250 pounds. He's 6'1", 6'2". What? He was the most artistic big guy we ever saw.
Well, when you say artistic, I mean, listen, there's artistic and then there's artistic, right? Like there's art, like Arnold was artistic. I mean, listen, he had all the traditional poses and the 3/4 and all that. I mean, that was very traditional and very arty, I guess could be artsy. Then you've got like Kai Green artsy, okay, standing on your head and obviously, it's very unconventional, but that was his style and that was his signature. But now, taking him out, I would like to see, listen, again, Bob Paris was a beautiful poser.
6-foot guy. Barry DeMay, 6 foot. Rory Learmeyer. I mean, who are we talking about when you say you don't want to see an artistic routine? What do you want to see? Heavy metal, most musculars from Benny Poto? I mean, come on. Google that name, Benny Poto.
So Melvin here wants to know what PMMA is. So I guess I probably shouldn't have just assumed everybody knew what that was. So PMMA is an injectable. It's like a synthol type thing. If you've heard of synthol, it's basically an inert oil that you inject into an area, and it's supposed to blow that muscle up. Now, how are we so sure? Like some athletes aren't taking it. Okay, well, detail number one. Rich Piana, if anybody remembers him, God bless Rich, was a PMMA freak. He was one of the first ones to actually go down that road. And you saw him blow up like a balloon. Now, he had no detail at all. Okay, he was like a big blow up balloon animal. Okay, with the big arms and the whole thing. The problem is it obscures definition. This is why a top Olympian would never be using PMMA, because it might blow up an area. Let's just say it was the biceps or something like that, or in this case we're talking about Natalia that they were accusing into her thighs. She's got some of the most ripped up thighs I've ever seen. I just saw a video she posted the other day. If anybody wants to check it out, go to Natalia's Instagram page, and she's got a video of her squatting. You can see all the fibers and the lines in the legs. Okay, that all gets obscured with the use of synthol or PMMA. Most of the time, it's not going to look good. This is not for people who generally compete. It's for like those freaks you see, like in those Brazilian videos where the guy's got there's the stupid arms that look like the floaties, like your little kid had when in the pool, to keep them from drowning. It doesn't look good, folks. Okay, or in the traps, or just they do in the back sometimes. It look like boobs on a guy. This is not a good look, but this is not something top Olympians use. It would so obscure their definition that they would be in last place if they even got to that point.
Again, there's a lot of reaching here, and it's getting a lot more publicity than it should, because we don't know what who's doing. Synthol, Essigilin, Dianabol, testosterone, growth hormone, insulin. These are staples in our industry. Now you got peptides. I mean, who is judging who? I'm looking at the physique. I'm looking at the show. If it don't look right to me, then I don't have to necessarily like it. But can I pick and choose what drug the person's taking? No, I can't.
So somebody wants to know, how prevalent was Essigilin back in the 90s? Well, for those who don't know.
Very.
Yeah, very, right? So what is Essigilin? So Essigilin is what they call the muscle irritant. Okay, it's an injectable, once again. And it was generally used for small muscle groups. And what it would do is you would inject it into the middle of a muscle group. Let's just say it was your bicep. And it was an irritant. So it would automatically bring in water and stuff into the area to blow that particular muscle group up. Now, how prevalent was it? Well, Shawn can tell you right off that most of the competitors that he competed against used it, and they used it very well, to the point that you really couldn't tell, because it was not a permanent thing. So it wasn't like PMMA and it wasn't like synthol.
Inflammatory.
It was an inflammatory, exactly. It was an irritant to the muscle group. So if it was done properly, it was almost impossible to detect. If it was done improperly, which you've seen on occasion, it looked really stupid.
It looked like a big beast thing. I never used it, but I could see the guys that did.
What do you feel about guys now being so open about their drug use online? I think it's ridiculous. Now, we're old school. You are never going to see, I'll speak for Shawn on that. You're never going to see us out there outlining what to take, how to take it, what we took, didn't take. I'm never going to give that information, and I'm not going to give a blueprint to anything that we were ever doing.
I've watched Ronnie Coleman. I've watched Dorian Yates, Rich Gaspari. I don't know why they feel at this age it's a confessional. You go on a podcast and you got to confess everything that you did. I just don't know where that law of attraction is. I think it's irresponsible. Some of the things that they took, they don't even make anymore. And there's people out there that will copy what you did. They're listening to what you're saying. There's a lot of irresponsibility going on, and I'm never going to be a part of that group.
No, me neither. Does the IFBB still test for diuretics? No, as Shawn said earlier, maybe you missed it. This is from RV Flex. 1934. No, they haven't in many decades now. And listen, I'm not for testing. If they were to test for anything, I guess that would be one of the, I hate to say I'd like to sign off on it, but if there's going to be a problem on stage, and again, this is the funny part about all the quote outrage from all these outlets and other people about anybody using PMMA or any of this type of stuff. Listen, last I checked, that stuff didn't kill anybody. Okay. You want to really look out for athletes in the sport and all these things that you're saying? Listen, why aren't you talking about diuretics and insulin? The two things that have probably killed the sport more than anything else, and the two things that have probably killed more athletes than anything else. And nobody even brings those things up.
No, I agree with you. And being a former pro, I don't want guidelines. I don't want guardrails. I mean, when I go to a bodybuilding show, I don't really care the means at which these athletes have taken to get to where they're at, how the sacrifice, the things that they have to take and do, any more than I care what you put under your hood on a racetrack, on a Formula One race. I just want to see the fastest car. In bodybuilding, because there's so many different sizes and shapes, I'm not interested in your testosterone level. I'm not interested in your growth hormone or insulin use. I'm interested in seeing the best product on stage. If an athlete is willing to put their life on the line and die for me to watch, that's up to them. They're going to reap the reward and suffer the consequences. But I'm not going to stand in judgment how they got there. So these are professionals. They decide what they want to put in their bodies. I'm a fan. I just want to see the prettiest, gnarliest, biggest, classiest, symmetrical, all of those things I want to see. But I'm not interested in seeing what they had to take to do it. I don't care. I
I
don't
don't care either.
It's like watching NFL or WWE or the NBA or baseball. These athletes are doing what they have to do to entertain. Are you not entertained? I don't care what they have to sacrifice. They're getting paid for what they're doing.
All right. One of our long timers here, Mike Cox, says, Shawn, how much pressure did you feel going into the 96 Olympia after taking 5th at the Arnold that year?
Yeah, it wasn't pressure, Mike. And I know who you are. Mike's been a long time supporter of me.
Oh, yeah.
Going into 95 Ironman, Arnold Classic, it was 96. 96.
Yeah, he says, how much pressure did you feel going into the 96 Olympia after taking 5th at the Arnold?
Yeah. So it was a good thing that I went in that Arnold and that Ironman in 96. I was training with Flex. He didn't look very good. And a lot of people said I looked better and I should do it. I wasn't planning on it. So 6 weeks out, I decided to do the show. And of course, it backfired. But when it backfired, there was something that went off in my head. Just stay the course. Keep doing what I'm doing. And so I had a longer time to prepare for the Olympia. In March, I was within striking distance of Olympia condition. I wasn't there, but I was striking. So I trained all the way through the Olympia. There was no break, and I'll start up in June. I'll start in May. I had started in December of 95, and I stayed all the way through. Whereas some of the guys backed off. Paul backed off. Flex backed off. It was too much in one calendar year for them. I ramped it up, and I trained, which is what we said about Nick Walker. We said if Nick keeps his weight down and continues to train through the summer, he could be harder and more defined. But he kind of blew up after Pittsburgh and then came back down again. I didn't do that. I was down in March, and I stayed down all the way through the Olympia, and I slapped them all in the face.
So Mike also says, so Bob, if you didn't win the USA in 2000, would you have kept competing? Great question. The answer is absolutely, because number one, it was already a 13-year adventure. I mean, so I wasn't pulling out. My 2 shows up to that point were the 99 Nationals, where I took second to my buddy and your buddy King Kamali. But I finally reestablished myself, and then I won the USA. Now, let's just say I had lost the USA, didn't get my pro card. So now the last 2 shows, I was runner-up, and I was, let's just say I won my class or, runner-up again. So, yeah, I wouldn't have thrown in the towel after all that time. I absolutely would have been on the next pro stage, to try to get that damn card. Here's some good questions coming in here. No, go down. There we go. Never warmed up. Okay, yeah, keep coming. Max Muscle, what's up, buddy? I always appreciate your weird, quirky humor. Hey, Bob and Shawn, could you please explain the winning of Shawn Clarida over big guys? I get he is an elder and has an advantage of muscularity and maturity, but how does a guy who stands 5'2" beating a 260-pound dude? How's it happen, Shawn? What's up with that?
Is there any difference from a guy 5'7" beating a guy that's 5'11"? 6 foot? It happens all the time. We can go down the list. We can go down back to Lila Brada. We can go all the way back down to Muhammad bin Aziza. It happens. And I think the sum total is the one that's the best prepared, the one that's overall better. And sometimes being overall better comes in a smaller package. We can't take that away from Shawn.
Yeah, I mean, relatively speaking, he's very well put together, which is why he's won the shows he's won. And this is not to take away from anything Shawn's done, but, he picks good shows, right? He's picked some good shows. One was the Legion, which ironically I'm wearing the jacket on here. Big shout out to Chris Minnitt.
He beat Cedric McMillan. He beat Cedric.
Right, but he picked good shows to go. And listen, there was good competition. It wasn't great competition. Would Shawn Clarida stand a better shot at a show like the Arnold or one of the bigger shows of that caliber? No. He would have a very difficult time against tougher competition. But to his credit, He picks shows that he is in the mix, and he presents a very formidable physique in a smaller package. But it's got more to do with a lack of talent from the bigger guys, because bigger guys tend to focus on size, which is their ultimate undoing. Smaller guys know they're not the biggest guy, so they focus more on detail. And Shawn, you made a career out of this. You knew you weren't going to be the biggest guy on stage. You were never the biggest guy on stage, but sometimes you were the best guy on stage. And like you said, there's a whole list of guys, Danny Padilla most notably, because, and I feel bad for Danny because he doesn't rightfully get the credit for a guy who's legitimately 5'2". And I know even you asked, like, well, what giants did he beat? Well, he beat the tall class guys that he had to beat back in the day, Roger Callard and Ken Waller and whoever else that he competed against for overalls, and that's before it was customary. Guy 5'2" had no chance against these guys, but Danny did.
Well, we can use Lee Priest as an example of a good little guy.
Yep.
When he's big, anybody can beat him. But when he's in shape, he beat Ronnie Coleman. So there's your example, right? A small, big guy is not as good as a small, detailed, quality guy. And Shawn has beaten these guys on condition.
Shawn, here's the easiest question I've ever asked you. Once again, courtesy of Mike Cox. He's just throwing them out there today. All right. Now, you're going to have to really think about this one, bro. You may have to even get back with us with an answer. Was the 1981 Olympia fixed?
Well, let's take two steps back.
Please.
Tom Platz was second place. So I don't think Tom Platz is better than Franco. I don't. That's my opinion. Danny Padilla is better than both of them.
Correct.
Now, that being said, Tom Platz admittedly went in that show with a torn bicep. So you already got a check mark against you. Franco Columbu didn't have the best legs. And of course, Tom's legs were way overpowering. So there had to be a winner and a loser. And if you're giving me names going into that show before, without ever seeing the two, but knowing what I knew, Tom's got a torn biceps. His legs are way overblown. Franco Columbu's legs aren't that good because of the knee injury, but he's put together well. I'll go with Franco over Tom Platz.
All right, listen.
That being said, I got Danny Padilla over both of them.
I do too. I mean, Padilla ends up in fifth place for those historians that are out there. Probably one of the worst decisions of all time. Certainly in my book, the worst decision of all time. But we brought this up before, but for obviously the new listeners. And for 100 points, Shawn, do you remember who was the only judge that had Danny Padilla in first place at the 81 Olympia?
The press, Mr. Jim Mannion.
That's exactly right, brother. So Jim Mannion, for those looking for the answer, was the only judge, and this is why Jim has my total respect for all time, in addition to the other 1,000 reasons we have for loving Jim. He had Danny Padilla in first, and he's the only judge who did, and which is ridiculous to me. But who was more overrated? This is a good question. Who was more overrated? Kevin Levrone or Kai Green?
Well, let's give it some context before we jump to a conclusion. Yeah. Kevin Levrone is a 4-time Olympia first runner-up. Kai Green is a 3-time Olympia first runner-up. If my memory serves me correct, I think Kai Green is a 4 or 5-time Arnold Classic champion in different areas: Australia, Brazil, Italy, or I should say Spain, and also in Columbus, Ohio. Both in the Hall of Fame. Kevin Levrone, when he retired, was the winningest bodybuilder of his time. Mind you, he retired before Ronnie Coleman and Flex Wheeler. But at the time Kevin Levrone retired, he had won more professional contests than any other bodybuilder in history. Now, Kai Green had the misfortune of coming up alongside 7-time Mr. Olympia, Bill Heath.
Sure.
So his destiny was never to win, but if you take Phil out of the show, Kai Green's at least a 3-time Mr. Olympia winner. Where is the overrated coming from? I would never use that word in using those two guys ever. So
here's a correction, my Alzheimer-inspired 60-year-old friend. Dickerson was second. Tom was third, I believe, in the 81. So
in 81?
81, yeah. That's,
Okay,
I
I
think that's
thought
right.
I thought Dickerson was third in '81 because I know he won in '82.
No,
But
and
I
I
thought
think,
Chris was third.
and I think Roy Callender might have been fourth, and then Danny was fifth or something of that nature. But either way, the point is made. And so appreciate the correction. Max Smart Muscle. I don't think, is Arnold Classic more important than the Olympia contest? Is that even a question? Is the Arnold
No,
Classic more
because
important than the Mr. Is the playoffs more important than the Super Bowl?
well, you have to distinguish the differences here. The Arnold Classic is an invitation where they hand select who's going to compete to win prize money. The Mr. Olympia is a qualification to see
Right.
who's going to compete, to be the best in the world. So no, they're not comparable, and no, one has not surpassed the other. They're two different weekends. They're not even the same animal.
No.
There's bodybuilding at the Arnold. There's also bodybuilding at the Olympia, but the Arnold offers, I don't know, 22 other pro divisions. The Olympia is all about physique. There is no
Right.
strongman and marathon and jousting and art and ballroom dancing. And they're two different animals. They're not comparable. I'll leave it at that.
Well, and as pure bodybuilding, taking all that stuff out of there, the Arnold's a qualifier for the Olympia. Okay, so that pretty much settles that. And like you say, it's that's an invitational. That's cool. They can do what they want. The Olympia, you actually have to qualify to get there. So yeah, they're two different animals. But here's a great question, Shawn. We've been asked this before a long, long time ago. But was Shawn ever contacted to join the WBF back in the day?
Of course, yes. I got on that Grand American airplane that's no longer around, like Pan Am. I got on that Grand Am flight and I flew out to Hartford, Connecticut, the headquarters of the WWF at the time, I think it was. And I met with Vince McMahon and Shane McMahon. Was brought into the office. Tom Platz was in charge of everything. He was the one that contacted the athletes. They offered me a 2-year contract. I left kind of excited to come home and talk about it because I needed to compare notes. I didn't want to sign anything right away. Mind you, I was coming off of a third place at the Mr. Olympia weekend, and Lee Haney was at his all-time worst in 1990. I don't know, 25, 26 years old. I'm thinking Lee Haney's going to retire soon. I'm going to be next in line. And this is a lot of money. And for 2 years, I could have paid my house off. If it didn't work out, I'm going to be 27 years old. I can start over. But then I talked to my training partner, Troy Zucolato, who at the time won the 1989 national championships.
I was there.
He won Mr. California. We were training partners. And he also went out there back and he told me they offered him more money per year than me, third place in the Mr. Olympia. Troy had never competed yet as a pro. He'd never been in the Olympia. That was my second attempt. I went from 13th to 3rd. And I thought, why are they offering me more money than me? And I'm more decorated. And it came down to imaging. They were going to create characters and they wanted to promote persona. I was a physique artist. I always said I was a physique artist. I always said I wanted to be the best in the world. Well, the WBF was not offering to be the best in the world. It wasn't even going to be a contest. It was going to be a show. And they wanted to create an identity for me that I wasn't keen on trying to be an alter ego. I mean, like, I got my posing instruction from John Brown, my introduction, but I could never do what John Brown did or Melvin Anthony. That wasn't me. So to create an alternative identity and be somebody I wasn't, I didn't think I stood a chance. But if it was going to be a bodybuilding show and a physique contest, I was going to be the best guy they had. Because I looked at some of the people they had: Gary Stridham, Aaron Baker, Tony Pearson, Jim Quinn, Mike Quinn, David Dirt, Danny Padilla, Tony Pearson. I beat all those guys. I'd already beaten Gary Stridham at the Ironman in 1990. So to answer your question, when Troy told me he was going to be making more money than me, I said, I'll stay where I'm at and I'll become Mr. Olympia. That was my mindset back then.
So, and I can lend my own experience in that. I almost joined the WBF as they were going to invite 2 amateurs, which was me and Paul DeMeo. And I actually still have the invitation card. I could rummage up. Maybe I'll show on our next thing an invitation from them, from Vince, to basically look into it. And I actually I'm actually in the very first edition. of Bodybuilding Lifestyles magazine, is I actually shot some training articles that they wanted to do for their magazine at Vince McMahon's house. So,
but did you get to a place where you had a contract?
No, because
Okay.
because the next year rolled around and they folded. So
yeah, but you didn't have that foresight that they were going to fold. At the time, they had the money.
no, I was heavily considering it.
You were considering it, but I had a contract in my hand. You want
Oh
to know
yeah,
what it said?
sure. Well, but
You want to know what it said?
sure. What did it say?
I don't know. I was like 25, 24 years old. I was on the verge of buying a house at the time. I just won and failed the drug test at the Arnold, so I didn't get the 60 grand that I thought I earned. I just got third in the Mr. Olympia, where I got a paltry $18,000, and I was under contract at the time for $50,000 with Joe Weider. They offered me $225,000 year one and $250,000 year two. This is in 1990. I hope some of you guys listening go back and find out what that dollar amount is worth today. But nonetheless, in 1990, to give you perspective, in 91, I bought my house. It was $327,000, 4-bedroom, 2,800 square foot, 2-story house in the hills. It was 320. So the first year I could have literally almost bought my house and paid it off. The second year would have been paid for, because the second year was $250,000. So that was almost $500,000 for a 25-year-old kid who was on the verge of becoming Mr. Olympia in the eyes of many. And I said no. And what Joe did was he took me from 50,000 to 60,000. So this decision, I turned it down because they weren't paying me enough. Troy Zuccolotto, by the way, was offered 250 for the first year and 275 for the second year. And that was a little bit more than what I was getting, but it was a lot more than I thought he was worth. And I thought, if they're going to waste money on my training partner and not take care of me, my selfish mind said, screw them. But when I said that, you have to be mindful. My contract also said, I'm not allowed to make appearances for money. I'm not allowed to sell my pictures. I'm not allowed to sell my videos. I just had made one, Lifestyles of Fit and Famous. I'm not allowed to sell posters. Any merchandise I had, they were going to own. So I was going to be bought and paid for. And at the time, they only had one show a year. And I was to make appearances. I was supposed to make appearances at their choosing whenever they wanted to. They didn't give me a number. 5 appearances, 10 appearances. They just said, when we need you in these stores, Sam's Club, whatever, marketing, they were going to create a persona for me. They were going to make T-shirts. They were going to make dolls, same way like the WWF, and they were going to sell that merch, and I get nothing. So now I'm bought and paid for $225,000. At the time, Bob, I was hitting my stride. I was traveling all over the world, Germany, Italy, China. I was going to all these countries, making cash money that was tangible every week. I was building my name. I was selling pictures, posters, gloves, T-shirts, belts. I was a marketing machine at the time, and a lot of it was cash transactions. So turning that down forced me to become a businessman in bodybuilding. And for me, it was the best move I made, because I remained autonomous. I controlled my image and marketing. I was able to see the world. Had I said yes to that contract, I would have become invisible, and I would have also been owned.
Well, we've been chatting. Duke Nukem did a little math, and he says 250 grand in 1990 has the same buying power as approximately $620,000 in 2025. So that ain't no joke, bro. You turned down some good cash money there, but ultimately you made the right decision. While my path was different, it was a consideration. Now, I had at that point competed as we both made our debuts in the 87 Nationals in Atlantic City. 87, 88, 89, 90, going into 91. So I'm going into my 5th year as a top national guy trying to get my damn pro card, and it's not happening. You know what I mean? And then had an opportunity with the Gladiators, because that was 91, 92. I took that, opportunity, which I thought was great. Then that thing kind of folded 10, didn't get renewed for TV. And then I got this opportunity with the WBF. Now, again, I'm an amateur at the time, but they're extending an invitation to me and Paul DeMeo to join the club. And so I was seriously like, you know what? Maybe this is my destiny. Basically, I got to take, a good look at how much they're going to offer. I mean, shit. I mean, I was nowhere near your status at that point, but I would have taken anywhere north of $100,000 at the time, which would have been great money.
Let me give you some numbers that you probably don't know. All right. So they signed Gary Stridham to the most money, $400,000 a year for 3 years. So Gary got 1.2 million. Mind you, they folded after 2 years, but they owed him all 3 years. So he got his money.
Because of ICAPRO, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, he got $1.2 million. He had to give up his clothing line, which I think was Crazy Wear. I think it was
Crazy Wear. Yeah.
So he got 1.2 million. Mike Christian, who I think was second, he got $300,000 a year for 2 years. So he got $600,000. Barry DeMay, who was third in that show, got the same. He got $300,000 for 2 years. Barry DeMay, mind you, Barry DeMay just tore his pec in 1989.
That's right.
And he'd only done one Olympia in 1988 where he was third. Other guys like David Dirth, Tony Pearson, Danny Padilla, Aaron Baker, they all got $50,000. Mind you, at the time, they weren't getting anything from Joe Weider. So $50,000 to them was a lot of freaking money. Jimmy Quinn, I believe, was getting $150,000. Jim Quinn, I believe he was fourth place in the grand scheme of things with that group over there. Mike Quinn, the Mighty Quinn, was also, I think, getting $50,000. So the guys on the bottom half were not getting a lot, and $50,000 back then was still a lot, but it wasn't a lot. You had four guys over there making big money, and they were all six-figure. Troy Zucolato, the other one, he was getting $250,000 and $275,000. So I knew the numbers, and my numbers weren't making sense.
Well, our buddy,
What?
Bob's frozen.
Are
This
you
is a Mitch
having
McConnell
fun?
moment.
no, he's freezing up. So what do you mean?
You
You
were
okay, Bob? What's happened to you?
I'm fine.
That's
Yeah,
a
you
Mitch
were
McConnell moment.
There was no words. There was no words coming out of your mouth. What am I, Mitch McConnell over here?
Yeah.
Listen, our buddy,
frozen.
our buddy Troy took that money and did pretty damn good with it as he amassed a collection of Lamborghinis that nobody's ever seen the likes of. So good for him. But some of the guys took that money and really made some careers out of it.
Yeah, there was a good run for Gary Stridham, who left off to Thailand, never looked back. I also believe that it was also the death of some of those bodybuilders, man. I mean, when they get that kind of money, they didn't really know what to do with it. I know some of them had some major drug issues as a result of that extra free money, lots of extra time. But for the most part, they all fell off. Physique-wise, none of them were the same. None of them. I mean, Aaron Baker still had a really good physique, but they all got worse.
Now, here I got a question for you, bro.
Gary Stridham's the only one that stayed good. Yeah.
I don't know if you have any insight. I don't know if you have any insight into this, but I know you were having a lot of conversations with those guys at the time. Whatever happened that Ferrigno didn't make it, and they had posters printed up with him against Stridham and all that, and then Ferrigno was all but assured of going, and then the whole thing kind of fell apart. Do you have any insight as to why that never took place?
It was very similar to my deal. They were going to own Lou Ferrigno, and Lou Ferrigno is a popular person. And Joe Weider was also in Ferrigno's ear at the same time. Joe wanted him also. It was too soon, but Louis was smart. He bought himself some time with Joe because he knew he had to put the weight back on and build his body back up. And the WBF wanted Lou now. They wanted him right now. But Lou wouldn't have any rights to his name, likeness, and image. And that's a big name back. You're talking about the Incredible Hulk. Yeah. And for the WBF, they were going to be able to market him and everything about him, and Lou's number, Lou wasn't going to get the number that he wanted. So what Lou did is he bought time with Joe Weider. He got a 3-year deal from Joe Weider. He was able to play the WBF with Joe Weider, and he wound up getting a 3-year deal for $250,000 a year at the time for 3 years. But he bought a year worth of preparation. He didn't have to do anything in year one. So 91, Lou didn't have to do anything but train. And then, of course, we saw him in 1992. So he got a free $250,000 for doing nothing. And then he got 2 more years after that with Joe Weider and he, of course, wound up in the Masters Olympia in 1994, getting second to Robbie Robinson, which he thought he was going to win, which he also believed that was created for him. And Robbie upset the apple cart.
Well, it was created.
By the way, Robbie was not a sponsored athlete when he won that
That's right.
1994. So Robbie wasn't getting anything. Meanwhile, Big Lou was cashing checks.
Well, and for all the conspiracy theorists out there who like to go down that road, that show was created for Big Lou, and it was all but his for the taking. I mean, the fact they gave it to Robbie, and again, all these stupid stories that you hear these days about Joe was a racist and this and that and all this other bizarre stuff. Listen, they could have given it to Ferrigno in 2 seconds. It's not, neither one of them were at their all-time best, and Louis looked pretty damn good at that show. But Robbie won outright, and they gave it to him, and as they should have. I thought Robbie was probably a little bit better than Lou was at that show. But no, there's some of these stories you hear. Speaking of the old timers, somebody wants to know if we're going to have any superstars on our show from like the 80s and 90s type of thing.
Hold that thought while we're on Ferrigno real quick. Lou Ferrigno made that comeback, and it went to the second place at the Masters Olympia. But Lou, the entire time, was in demand. He was posing at the FIBO over in Germany. He was over in Canada making appearances. Lou probably made more money making appearances than he did off the contract that Joe Weider wound up signing him. Lou was a very popular entity at that time, and he was making appearances all over the place. Even Mark Nally from Flex Equipment made a documentary on that Masters Olympia called Stand Tall. That is about Lou Ferrigno. So Lou actually made a movie while he made his comeback, and then he milked it for years after his contract was over with Joe Weider.
So a couple more questions.
Again.
So there's a delay on this stuff. Can you see that he's talking and the words are coming out of his mouth, or is it just me?
Anybody ever tell you look like Joe Piscopo?
Oh, God.
Mitch McConnell. All right, a few quick ones here. Folks, we got about another 10 minutes. We'll take, obviously, if you got any good questions. Why didn't Phil Clare win this year's Masters Olympia? Well, because at least one other guy was better, and possibly two, as per the judges. That's why he didn't win.
Yeah. Full stop.
Yeah, full stop with that. We're not going to waste 1 second on that garbage. But let's see. Too many bots in the chat. I don't know what that means. Lou guest posed at my show in '95. He was one of the biggest human. Yeah, Lou back in his day at 6'5" and 300 pounds muscular was a sight to behold. Here's another. Did Bob and Lou ever patch things up? I remember the interview when things went south with him. Yeah, me and Lou are actually very close friends to this day. But yeah, there was a time where he was a little upset because, in effect, I got the role to play a young Lou Ferrigno in the movie See Arnold Run with our good friend Roland Kickinger back in the day. What I didn't know at the time was that Lou was trying to get the part to play himself. And at the end of the day, Shawn, they felt like I made a better Lou than Lou.
Yeah, you're younger than Lou. They wanted a young Lou, and Lou wasn't
correct.
Young.
Yeah, but he took a little burn to it. Like I think that he didn't get the job, but it's like, bro, I didn't hire myself.
Right. Yeah, he's 15 years older than you. Give me a break.
Right. Yeah, listen, he got over it. It was fine because, and we've been pretty close for years because Lou was actually, while everybody loved Arnold and pumping iron and all that, I actually identified with Lou Ferrigno more. One, we had a similar look, especially when I was younger. Two, he was a big Italian guy from New York, so obviously we had a bunch of stuff. And most importantly, a lot of people don't know this about my background, but I identified with Lou especially because when I was a young kid, oddly enough, I would end up speaking for a living. I had some speaking issues, that I had to go to a speech therapist, couldn't pronounce certain things, I had some problems there. I didn't have hearing issues like Lou did, but our speech was very similar in that, and I would get picked on as, kids would do at that point. So I kind of identified more with Big Lou.
I think Tosh would probably argue whether or not you got hearing issues because
she would contend I still have a speech problem, but Bob was competing with him for handsomeness. Well, clearly I won. So let's see, voice of bodybuilding, supposed to make the new handsome Arnold guy. What do we got? Come on, guys. You got. I'm going to give you We'll go 5 minutes. Again, if you guys got anything good, anything juicy, can you guys make another roundtable talk on your podcast? I love the roundtables, and I wish we would do those more. That's something, Shawn, I would like to see if we can do on the road. Like, I would love to actually get some of the other podcasters involved. Get a Fuad or get my, Matt from. Actually, Matt, big shout out to Matt. We actually shot a show yesterday. So this is a different Matt, clearly, that we're talking about on his podcast, and we shot an hour, and then he realized we weren't taping it. So,
oh my God, what the hell? That's Matt. Bro, he's special too.
No, that's a whole different Matt.
I know. I know the Matt. There's a couple special Matts.
I got my phone ringing. How about that? How the hell did LeBron lose the 90 Olympia after winning the posing round?
Did he win?
Again, it comes down to volume, and we were going into an age where volume mattered. Much like baseball, Major League Baseball, they were only watching the home run derby when it was going down between McGwire and Sosa. This was about size. LeBron understood that it was about size. He didn't feel like he got beat by a better bodybuilder. But even Lee Haney small is better than Lee Labrada small. So I think we were able to digest that. I was able to, in my later years, understand that even though Lee Haney was smaller, we were all relatively smaller, which took away the impression that Lee Labrada brought when he wasn't natural. Because Lee Labrada, when he wasn't natural, could take down everybody. But I think we were all equally smaller. And Lee's back thickness, Lee's width, front to side, he was also smaller. And you cannot take away the shape and the genetics of Lee Haney. When Lee Haney threw up his front double bicep, me and Labrada were battling it out amongst ourselves.
So, Matt's still on there. Matt from Reps and Rumors, for those wanting to know what podcast that is. Matt's a good guy, and we will redo that possibly even tonight because there's some relevant stuff that if we're going to get it out, we need to kind of get it out now. But Matt's a good guy, and he has a good podcast. Branch Warren, uncrowned Mr. Olympia. I love Branch Warren, but I don't think he took a second in the Olympia. That's to be noted. But I think Branch did exceedingly well for his genetics. His work ethic was second to none. Very, very Rich Gasperi was Branch Warren, in my opinion.
Yeah, the heel on his side was Jay Cutler.
What would Jay have looked like if he refined his 2001 physique instead of chasing size? Well, I don't think Jay was ever chasing size. Jay was a big dude, but his 2001 physique, I think, beat Ronnie Coleman at the Olympia. And I think
that was enough.
Right?
No, he was fine in 2001. He should be Mr. Olympia. Bottom line, full stop.
Yeah,
but if Jay does not get second at that Arnold, at that Olympia, then Jay's not at the Arnold, right? Like Jay went and won the 2002, 2003, 2004 Arnold Classic. If he's not second in the Mr. Olympia, and he is Mr. Olympia, he's not in Ohio, guaranteed. Right. So that was good medicine for him.
Absolutely.
He was getting $100,000 in a Hummer every year for 3 years in a row.
He started his own car lot, on that show.
Yeah, and he was getting second in the Olympia.
Right.
I think
Jay's a rock star. I think Jay is just fine in his career. Well, all right, folks. Well, listen, we both got stuff to do, and I'm on the road tomorrow. Shawn, I'll be in Las Vegas at Dr. Bob Goldman's big shindig that he puts on every year. It's an anti-aging expo out there in Vegas at the Venetian or attached to it. So if anybody's out that way, I'll be kicking around there, doing various things and getting some business together in Vegas. I'll also be visiting Cult Fitness and my good buddy Mike out there, the owner. What a great gym that is. If anybody's in that area, he's got some brand new Panada equipment that he's purchased, and he's converting almost his entire gym with Panada. En route to opening up another gym or two in the very near future. So we'll be out there, and I'll probably try to stop by Iris Kyle and Heat gym. I've never been there, but I told him I'd love to stop by and say hello. So lots of stuff going on there in Vegas, Shawn. But where are you at this week? You traveling or are you home?
I'll be at the Lions and the Rams game here in SoFi. John Brown's son plays for the Detroit Lions. I'll check him out in person. And Ross St. Brown. And my world tour is over. I'll be back out in Hawaii at the end of December. Scheduled date next year, November 21st.
There you go.
We're waiting for your arrival to rock the
I would
mic.
love to be rocking the mic there, but never fear, folks. We will be back in action this next week. We'll do a regular VOB, but we love these lives and appreciate everybody coming on here and participating. We sorry we can't get to everybody, but we try to mix it up and get to some of the good stuff. But hit us up online, folks, of course, at the VOB. And you can catch me and Shawn on Instagram, and always talking the business of bodybuilding. And as always, Shawn, we may not always be right,
But we're never wrong.
you got it.